Yesterday's impeachment hearings, according to some people, had a pretty big bombshell. Here is one of those people.
But what we heard today was that he himself was making and partaking in some of these phone calls, not just Giuliani, not just anyone else in administration, but him. And that really adds a much more disturbing degree of the involvement that he had in using the powers of government to create politically motivated investigation.
So that is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who seems to think that something important was said yesterday, which is weird because I've been watching the media's reaction to those hearings, and she's missing that the big standout component of these hearings is how much of a snoozer they are. So here's the NBC News tweet analysis. The first two witnesses called Wednesday testified to President Trump's scheme, but lacked the pizzazz necessary to capture public attention. Not to be outdone, Reuters deployed this: consequential but dull. They begin without a bang. And can you really impeach a man if you don't have a bang? And then others, NBC News had this, noting that the big Bill Taylor revelation, which we'll talk more about, was more of a footnote than a headline, which was news to NBC News, who literally had it in a headline. If you go to the next one. News to NBC News, it's a footnote, by the way. You're not supposed to put it up there where people can see it. And the thing that really bothers me about this is that it's not the media's job to tell people, oh, by the way, don't tune in, this thing's boring. It's to assess the evidence that's presented, among other things.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. I mean, it's so frustrating to talk about this process on so many levels, partially because I think my perspective on it is one that basically ends up annoying everybody. But taken on those terms, it actually is fun in a weird way. But yeah, I mean, this is it's the horse raceization of everything, right? It's who's up, who's down, how is it being played? And I'm honestly, when you go into politics, and I think we like to talk about elections and the process and so on, but the actual stakes are what make this significant. Like I never understood, if you really just want the game, why aren't you covering the NBA? It's much more fun.
Yeah,
the games
or
are better.
Esports or something.
Well, no, not esports. No respect for esports. No, I'm just kidding. No.
We found out yesterday that AOC plays League of Legends, so we've got one in my corner now.
Well, I stand corrected.
But yeah. Just do sports reporting.
Just do sports reporting. Talk about the movie business. Talk about, I mean, even
box office returns.
Business. Yeah, so I think, and then the other juxtaposition that's hilarious to me is that there's all this like maudlin melodrama about Trump, and a whole bunch of people in the center or the mainstream or whatever you want to call it that don't want to have the real fundamental analysis about Trump, but also how we got to Trump. And then all of a sudden, when the process happens, it's almost like, well, he's not a Russian body double, so boring.
Yeah, Yeah. We don't critically analyze how we got here, and to the extent that anyone talks about how you actually get us past this whole thing, it's generally like Biden saying, oh, you just vote out Trump and then we'll be cool. Everyone will be working together again. The Republicans will be super excited to work with Joe Biden.
Well, that's utterly delusional. I mean, unless it involves cutting entitlements. And I think it's just really disturbing because on one hand, I think you have some people more in my neck of the woods on the left that for all of the correct criticisms about how Russia was covered and things like that, which we could unpack at some other time, they're ignoring the fact that this is Trump is in an ongoing pattern of massive executive overreach, which is a fundamental threat to democratic process. And then conversely, all too many members of the Democratic Party and so on are just sort of like, oh, well, the CIA says he's not doing a good job, so he's not doing a good job.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, what happens when a president, say we do elect a President Sanders and he actually tries to go up against US foreign policy in a constructive and positive way, the same process will play on him.
I think they'll be
people
open-minded.
need to look. Yeah, they'll be right.
Yeah.
They'll be thinking, they're just concerned about the facts. And right.
And by the way, you can do a full 24 hours on the impeachment hearings and still tie in some of the things you talked about. Like you can bring up the executive overreach even in the context of the hearings. Like we have Bill Taylor's testifying, but what about the people that aren't testifying, and why aren't they testifying? Because Donald Trump apparently didn't get the memo from Lindsey Graham that obstruction obstruction of justice and an impeachment inquiry is itself an impeachable offense, and he's decided that nobody should talk, while at the same time complaining that nobody has firsthand information that's testifying.
Bill Barr helped cover up Iran-Contra.
Yeah.
This is a whole direct history of not only executive overreach, quote unquote, but a formalization of executive impunity. This is another area where Trump goes, it's not a crime, I can't do one.
Yeah.
That's actually what a lot of people think. They wrote what he said in a law journal article that sounded more sophisticated, but it's the same sentiment.
Yeah, and like in the same way that Ned Stark was brought to King's Landing because he was the only honorable man in the kingdom, Bill Barr was brought in because he's the least honorable, and he was brought in to cover up future scandals. And for some reason, the Democratic Party doesn't care about this, but Bill Barr tried to cover up this one. If he had gotten his way, we would have never found out about the whistleblower. Whistleblower blew the whistle, the DOJ said, nope, there's nothing there, we're not gonna do any interviews, this thing is done. And only because the whistleblower responded to that by going outside of the normal channels did we find out about any of this. If that hadn't happened, Bill Barr would have succeeded, Zelensky would have had his Fareed Zakaria interview, and all of the campaign talk right now would be, man, Joe Biden is looking really bad, this investigation that has nothing to do with Donald Trump. And so for some reason, Bill Barr is so far clean in this whole thing. But one other thing about the media reaction to this, I agree with you that it's the next step in the horse raceation of all of politics, but it's looking at this process from a particular individual stereotypical point of view. And that is from the point of view of Donald Trump. How exciting is this? How are the ratings for this? Oh, it's boring, it's a snoozer. It doesn't matter what the content is. It's either something that's gonna bring ratings or something that's gonna lose ratings. Why is Reuters and NBC News and CBS, all of these looking at it through the lens of Donald Trump, the guy who is almost on trial for this?
I mean, I think because leadership flows from the top. And he's helped reset the parameters of modern politics. But again, I think we were already there in so many ways. And I think that is, there was, here, I'll do a real TMBS reference. There was an essay that came out in 2016 by a Cameroonian philosopher named Achille Mbembe called The Age of Humanism is Ending.
I read that one.
Right, fantastic.
I did not.
I actually thought you did.
No, I didn't,
You got
sorry.
me, man.
I wish, but no. That would have been awesome.
It would have been
say?
dope. It said that our institutional frameworks of even sort of modern day liberalism are hollowed out and disappearing across the globe. And that things, whether we're talking about Gaza or different areas of incredible concentrated abuse and inequality, are gonna become increasingly the norm. And he wrote this in the decay of 2016, but before the rise of Trump and Bolsonaro and all of these figures. And I just think that you can't, it's such a thread that you have to walk between, I would love to see impeachment seriously damage Donald Trump, but it is not a magical bullet, and it's not going to get us out of the predicament we're in, or even in fact, the political fights that we actually have to win, because we know he's not gonna be removed from the Senate. And I think, what I think is disturbing is the press shouldn't be reporting it like this, but I could see plenty of normal people, both because Trump is Trump, and also because they're so burned out. I mean, even this story, the fact that there is a connection to Joe Biden, that setting everything else aside, why is his son on that board? It's disgusting, and it reminds everybody of these systems problems, and that's what we need to get to. And the last thing I'll say with regards to Trump, it's funny that you want to get more sexy, exciting stories, talk about Trump's relationship to the mafia. There isn't even any speculation about that. That's not some fever dream of Jonathan Chait, that's real.
Thank you for watching this clip from The Damage Report. For more content from the show and access to TYT Network members only exclusives, go to tyt.com/Brooke. Wait, no, it's tyt.com/John. Go to tyt.com/John to sign up.